Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the second day of semester break program cycle 2. My name is Evelyn Fu Itin from Malaysian Student Association in Guangdong, and I will be your MC for today. Today, we will be exploring the theme of prepare for the future. After getting invaluable information about the opportunities that are available for us in the employment market, now it is time to focus on the preparations that we need to do to remain competitive. And our first session of the day will be about internships. Before we start our first session for today, allow me to just run through with you some housekeeping rules. The panel discussion session will be for 1 hour and 30 minutes, divided into a presentation and a Q&A session for the last 30 minutes. For Q&A, you may ask your questions throughout the event by typing them out in the comment section. This, however, is exclusive for our registered Zoom participants. If you're currently tuning in through Facebook Live, you can register now and join us through the link in the comment section. During the Q&A, I will be assisting the moderator in choosing and reading out your questions. If you're not able to join the whole session, don't worry. They are recorded and will be uploaded on both TalentCorp Facebook pages. Do follow us on social media to get updates. Your feedback is extremely important to us. We would really appreciate if you could fill up the feedback form, which will pop up on your screen upon exiting the Zoom call. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our prominent panel speakers. Ms. Shariza Mohammed Razi, Head of Talent Acquisition at Nestle Malaysia, who have been a part of Nestle Malaysia for more than 10 years. Second, it is Mr. Muhammad Aqil Zainuddin, consultant at Kearney and the founder of the 4th R, who has various internship experiences that has helped him a lot in his journey. The panel discussion will be moderated by Ms. Orealia Soliano, my next lead at TalentCorp, who works in an initiative that helps prepare graduates to enter the future workforce. I am definitely excited for this session. Orealia, take it away.
Thank you, Evelyn, and thank you, TalentCorp, for having us today. Good morning to fellow students, teachers, educators, and professionals. I hope everyone is having a beautiful morning today. So as we get started, Yes, we'll be speaking about internships today and how to score 10 internships. So today we have with us Shariza and Aqil. Before we go into introducing Shariza and Aqil, I would like to speak a little bit on internships and where we are today. So during these trying times that we are in, just having a good degree is no longer to secure that all-important graduate job offer in today's world. Pertinent work experience is now just as valuable as your degree and exam results when it comes to building a successful career. As a result, internships have become an essential way to help candidates make themselves stand out. Being a graduate with just a bachelor's degree may not be the most marketable trade in a very competitive employment market. Students and graduates must equip themselves with adequate skills, adequate experiences to be outstanding graduates compared to others. One of the ways to do this is through doing internships. Internship is a crucial part of students' journey before employment. This session will help students to be aware of the benefits of doing internships. We will learn tips and tricks by professionals from Shariza and Aqil, and as well, how good internships and how it may translate to to have a better career life in the future. So let's get started. So today we have Shariza and Aqil. Let's start with Shariza. Shariza, how are you? How are you today? Introduce yourself, as well as what do you do in Nestle?
Sure. Good morning, Orealia. Good morning, to our fellow audience, and thank you, Evelyn, for handling this session. Firstly, I want to thank TalentCorp for inviting me for this wonderful session this morning, and I hope I would be able to impart some good advice and knowledge to the students out there. So a little bit about me. I'm Shariza Mohd Razi. You can call me Shari for short. I am the talent acquisition head in Nestle Malaysia, Singapore. So what I do is look after recruitment and employer branding for the company. Been here for actually more than 10 years. It's been 13 years in Nestle. Started off my career as a management trainee and sort of just grew my career from there. So yeah, looking forward to this session. Thank you, Aurelia.
Thank you, Shariza. That's wonderful. It's 10 years in talent acquisition. I believe we'll be learning quite a bit from Shariza today as well. And then we also have Aqil, part of our panel. Aqil, do introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good morning. First of all, I think I just want to say thank you to TalentCorp as well for inviting me. I think it's an honor to be here, to be able, to sit with Shariza, to be able to give you all an advice on internships. A bit of background about me. I currently work as a consultant in Kearney. Previously, I worked in EY, and I did various internships with notable companies such as Gamuda, KPMG, Maybank. I graduated last year in July 2020 in civil engineering from the University of Sheffield. So still a fresh professional, actually, to be honest. And actually, I did some pro bono consulting work. Was quite active in student organizations like UKC and MSGA. And I think during my free time, just to share out there, just to connect with the audience today. I used to actually, before the pandemic, play sports, different kind of sports like frisbee, football, futsal, etc. But I think now, because we can't do that anymore, I use my free time to actually run my own social enterprise, the 4th R. But anyway, all in all, I'm very glad to be here to share my humble experience and knowledge with you all. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Aqil. Aqil, just to share a little bit, he has had quite a bit experience in a number of internships. So I believe he'll be able to share his experiences on having to go through these different internship programs. And just to share a little bit about myself, my name is Orealia Soliano. I am currently working in TalentCorp and leading the product called MyNext. And MyNext is a product that is around innovating as well as motivating students through their internship programs and their career and professional journey. So with that, let's get to the important topics for today. So let's start off with opening the floor to everyone to answer some questions. So to start, the first topic today that we'll be speaking about is the importance of internship for your career growth. Yes, internships are incredibly, it provides you with incredible experiences. And I believe most of us have experienced internships that may or may not have been life-changing or have put us in a path of the right career growth. So with that, which is why we're having this program today, we're bringing into two panels to share how they view the importance of internship and how to maneuver through this experience. So let's start with Shariza. Why is an internship an important experience to you to have? And how does it shape our future graduates' career paths?
Thank you, Orealia, for the question. For me, I think internship is definitely a very important part of future graduates. I think it is important for future graduates to have a feel about what the corporate world is, or even what the working world is before actually entering it. It provides them some sort of experience, right, in what to expect when they enter the working world. And it is where they actually get to start to experience and start to ask a lot of questions and see whether would this be something that they want to do after they graduate. Because I think at this point of time, it is also about self-discovery, right? It's about discovering what you like to do and what you want to do in the future, and having a good internship stint or would actually help you make a decision after you graduate on where you actually want to work or what you actually want to do if it's not working in the corporate world. Yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful. I would like to just tap a little bit into your thoughts. Like you mentioned, having the importance of shaping graduates towards their career path, right? Would you say, what would you tell for graduates today on picking the right internships? Would you say that it's very important to pick the right internship? And would you say picking the right internship would lead them to shaping a better future?
Yeah, I would think so. I think today, of course, as graduates, some of them would have to do an internship to graduate as part of the degree itself. And some students do it out of their own interest, right? They want to actually gain experiences as much as possible before they actually graduate. So I think for me, picking the right internship stint that you want to do is actually also important. We do have students who study finance but actually end up wanting to do marketing, and in Nestle we're actually very open to that. And how I see graduates today is if you have an interest in a particular area, even though you're not really studying that at that point of time, I think it's no harm for you to explore yourself, because this is what an internship is supposed to do. It's supposed to provide you that exposure beyond than just what you have studied, for you to actually see whether it is something that you want to continue further after you graduate. I think there's always this what do you call this the internship that you must do in order to graduate, and then there's also other internship opportunities which you can do on your own, beyond than just the mandatory one, right? So I would suggest maybe if while you are studying finance or accounting, you may need to do an internship related to your finance and accounting degree, which is fine. Proceed to do that, because that's also important. You have spent a good number of years studying finance and accounting. You may want to see how do you actually apply that in the whole working world, right? And then later on, when you do have the time throughout your time as a student, go ahead and apply for internships which are beyond than finance and accounting, for example, right? If you say you want to try out marketing, go ahead and find one. And if you do have, there are employees out there, for example, like us, Nestle, who would consider people then beyond than just what they from the background that they are studying in, to give them that opportunity and to try it out, right? Because at the end of the day, if you don't try it, you wouldn't know. And I think that's an important thing that all graduates will have to have in mind. But of course, it's important for you to identify what your interest is, right? And sometimes how do you identify this is through the many activities that you participate throughout your university life. Sometimes you participate in competitions, in business case studies, and this is where you get to get that exposure. And suddenly you say, hey, you know what? I think marketing is something I want to give a try. So yeah, why not, right? Go ahead and apply for marketing internships so that at least you get to have a feel of it and see whether that's really something that you want to do after you graduate, or even to find a permanent working placement later on.
Nice. So Aqil, how do you feel about it? Do you, why would you, how would you perceive internships' importance, and how does it shape future graduates? And further iterate on what Shariza shared on having to choose the right internships. How was your experience like?
Yeah, I think whatever that Shariza has mentioned just now is pretty spot on, very comprehensive, to be honest. For me, I think, whether internship is important or not, I break it down into like 4 points. And I think the first 3 points is actually very similar to what Shariza has mentioned, right? It acts as a taster to your academic course. You're trying to discover yourself, and you want to know whether you like to work in your field of study or not. And I think this is very closely related to me. Because as you know, I graduated from a civil engineering, but now I'm working as a consultant, and internship really plays a role in me deciding where do I want to go, to land my first career, like permanent career. Second is actually on the getting yourself familiarized with the work setting, because studying and working is totally different thing. You wouldn't be able to actually know what it feels like to actually work. The amount of responsibility, the amount of accountability that is given to you is very different. And obviously, when you do an internship, you will able to actually develop your not just technical skills. Yes, all these Excel, PowerPoint, etc., but also your interpersonal skills, because when it comes to working, right, it's really different in how you actually negotiate. Every day is a negotiation process, to be honest. But I think the final point that I would like to actually add on to Shariza is actually internship is actually a good conversation starter. As a student, you will go to a lot of networking sessions, right? And I think a good conversation starter, a good content is actually really good for you to actually initiate a conversation with people, to make them interested to talk to you, etc. So having, when you do internships in various notable companies, I mean, not just notable companies, actually, in any, it's actually a very good conversation starter. You'll be able to talk to them about your experience, they will be able to see you as a, this guy is a promise, or this girl is actually a promising candidate. And I think how all this actually shapes you into a better graduate when you graduate, how it shapes your career pathway is that it's not about doing the right internship. Obviously, having the right internship is good, but even though it's a wrong internship or the right internship, because I would say my initial ones are the wrong one, if you want to put it that way, but it actually helps you to discover yourself and increase the probability of you landing your first permanent job that you will actually enjoy and love. And I think my experiences in internships, I did like 5 internships, has actually helped me to actually shape my career pathway right now.
That's incredible, 5 internships. Before we come back to that, we're going to touch base a little bit on those 5 internships that you've experienced. Shariza, do share a little bit your views on what Aqil have shared, and also touch a little bit on how what is more beneficial for future graduates, in whether it's okay to stay in the field of their study. Like you've mentioned earlier, whether we can stay in finance or we can stay in marketing. Touch a little bit more on that, and then we'll come back into how this 5 internships Aqil has chosen may have shown a little bit of story from what you could share from having to choose between the field of study or explore outside of their study.
Sure. All right. So I think, Aqil, thank you for sharing your experience. And I think you're spot on, right? I think one point that you mentioned, I just want to continue to highlight is, internship opportunities actually provide you that exposure that you need before you enter the workplace, right? Because Aqil is right, entering the workplace is very different compared to what you are doing in university. I often see fresh graduates, if they don't have a good internship experience or they have not done any internships at all, they will actually struggle when they join the company because everything is just too new for them, and it takes a lot of time for them to integrate. So I would really concur what Aqil says. It's important for you to get that internship exposure, and whether it is that you get the right internship exposure. I understand you guys are fresh graduates. Sometimes you're not really sure of what you want to do, right? Even though you studied finance, but somehow you have an interest of marketing. Even you studied engineering, but actually you want to do sales. You have all this kind of interest in you. And today, with the power of social media, I'm sure we are very much exposed to all these different career opportunities, and you see people coming from different backgrounds doing different things. And for me, it's totally fine. I think it's important for you to have your basic education, right? Whether it's in whatever degree that you have studied. And when you pick that right internship opportunity, just go for it. Just find out about what are the different companies out there, right? If which kind of industry would actually interest you, and what sort of opportunities are also available. Because sometimes it's not always that you get you get to a company which you want to, right? Because again, there's always a tough competition. Companies are hiring, but again, maybe they're not hiring too many, so you have to stand out among the many applicants that are out there. So go ahead and pick the one that you feel would add value to you, right? And when you get the internship opportunity, make sure you learn as much as you can, because at the end of the day, it's about building building some interpersonal skills. Networking is very important, because you never know, the people that you meet during your internship stints are the one who you would actually work with, or even work with in different companies even, right? Because people move. So having a good internship exposure is very important. If you can do multiple, like Aqil, I think I'm very impressed. Go ahead and do it, right? Because not many people have that opportunity, but I also believe if you want to do it, you just have to go for it, right? It's all with you. There's no limitations. I always believe that. Yes, you have to complete your studies well, you have to score, but at the same time, you find that time to complete an internship. And believe me, that will really add value to your CV later on when you're looking for jobs. And whether it is something that related to your studies today or something beyond that, I would say keep it open. If you believe that you want to be an accountant one day, go ahead, find an opportunity within the accounting firms. Do something that you can actually apply, or whatever that you have studied. But if you have a hunch and say, hey, look, you know what, I really want to go and give marketing a try, I want to give sales a try, I want to give HR a try, go ahead. No one will actually stop you. And I think you just have to be brave and courageous enough to make that decision and to take that step, right? And then as you go along, you'll find out whether that will be something that you really want to go ahead with, or it's just something that you want to try and then move back to your original interest. Yeah. Hope
Yes.
that's clear, Orealia. Yeah.
Yes, that's wonderful. The keyword that I found was that you have to have the courage and the confidence to do it, and to take the step forward and make the decision where you want to be able to study, where do you want to be able to learn and grow, to have yourself be ready to be industry ready. I mean, I'm having to experience, I'm in marketing myself, but I studied psychology, and having to having to go into the creative field and going into the marketing field was a big shift, coming from a psychology field. But it was something that I actually learned in my internship. I did internship because I was taking communications as well as part of my major. I went into an internship in an events company. And while I was in that event company doing my internship, I realized psychology, it was a field that I love, and I appreciate what I learned. And I believe a lot of that, what I've learned in my psychology studies helped me grow and helped me basically have the interpersonal skills and some put me in a place of a right mindset to grow. But then creative side took over, and I went into marketing, and I went to advertising, and it's something that I learned and put myself forward through my internship programs. So it's incredible what you said. It is true. People do find out what their true path is through some of their different internship programs, which is where we come to Aqil. He interned in Maybank, KPMG, and in Inditech in UK. Could you share with us your overall experience and why you choose to do multiple internships and what has it taught you?
Sure. Before I actually share my experience, I think, yeah, again, I resonate with whatever that Shariza has mentioned about trying out new things, and don't be afraid to actually, just apply for any kind of internship. I actually applied for a legal internship as well, to be honest, back in the UK. Unfortunately, I did not get it. But, it's basically about, being courageous, is what Orealia mentioned as well, and wanting to actually discover yourself. Okay, so there's a bit of a chronological story here, but before I get to that, let me briefly explain what I do in all of my internships. So I was in Maybank as the strategy and transformation intern. So I led the RPA monitoring project for Maybank. In KPMG, I was the strategy and operations intern. So I did a market study, competitive analysis for a healthcare tourism client. In Idetech UK, my job is a bit different. It's a business development position where I help a Turkish company to actually set up a presence in Southeast Asia and in Gamuda, actually. I actually did internship twice in Gamuda. Basically, I was at the MRT2 SSP project, so I pretty much know what's currently happening. I was underground, digging out the tunnel. Not by my hand, but obviously we got machines. But anyway, so I decided to actually do multiple internships because exactly what I told you, the audience about discovering yourself. So the first two internships is actually I did in my first and second year. I did in Gamuda, in my field of study, which is civil engineering. It was a great experience. I wanted to know whether I really want to become an engineer, but unfortunately, this experience, not unfortunately, but luckily, this experience actually opened my eyes to the fact that construction work, being a civil engineer might not be my cup of tea. So I decided to actually, hey, you know what, in my third summer, let's try something a little bit different. So I actually approached, I attended a networking session and I approached somebody to actually do an internship in their boutique consulting firm in the UK, which is Idetech. And it was actually an eye-opener for me because even though it's actually a small firm, but you pretty much have to do, everything from A to Z. And I pretty much enjoyed it. Hence, I actually continued that passion in KPMG when I arrived in Malaysia in the same year. So from there, I feel like, okay, you know what? I've tried civil engineering, I've tried consulting, and I think consulting is the way to go. But I feel like in my final year, when I graduated, I just want to do one more because I feel like I'm still lacking certain skills and experience. And at that point, I feel like finance technology is the trend of the future. People are talking about blockchain, fintech, all this emerging technology about AI, RPA, robots and stuff. So I went on LinkedIn and then I, approached, a head of department there. And then I said like, you know what, I want to do one more internships. So I did my final internship in Maybank. And it actually an awesome experience, to be honest. All in all, I think the internship experience have basically helped me to discover myself and bring me where I am today. So yeah, that's a pretty nice sum up of whatever that Shariza has mentioned about trying out new things. And I'm telling you in a real life story what happened in my life and why do I choose from doing an internship in civil engineering to a consulting to doing some technology in banking, and now where I'm doing full-time consultant.
That's beautiful. I would like to say congratulations, actually. I mean, like Shariza has mentioned earlier, it's not everyone are able to take on 5 internships or not, right? Again, everyone who's listening, it is your journey. You are able to pick and choose actually where you want to learn and where you want to grow. It's not necessarily going to be the same experiences as Aqil, but you're able to grow in any way possible. And the first step is being able to understand what you are, lacking in having you to be industry ready in the future. So how do we close the gaps, right? Now we go back to Shariza. how does Nestle consider an internship experience as a valuable element in a potential employee? As we are all aware, the main reason for doing an internship is to gain experiences and provide us with exposure to the real world. How is it a part-time job different from an internship?
Okay, nice one. So I think for me, when Nestle looks at hiring fresh graduates or even those with less than, let's say, 2 years of experience, if I look at the different type of CVs that we receive, someone who's like an Aqil, who's done 5 internships versus someone who has not done any internships at all, obviously I would look at the candidate who has done that internships, right? Because for me, no matter how short or how small the firm is or how small the company is that you've done that internship in, I think it still adds a very valuable part to your CV as a fresh graduate or those of you who are with less than 2 years of experience. Now, why I say this is because as a student, if you have yourself made some time to actually complete an internship opportunity, whether it's mandatory or not, it also shows that you have had the initiative to want to do more than just completing your degree, right? That's one as a fresh graduate. And of course, it adds value to what you have today in terms of experience. Yes, it may be a short stint, but what you learn in that internship stints are actually very valuable because, as we said earlier, it's about building your soft skills, building your leadership skills, right? And honestly, sometimes it's just very basic things. It's learning about how to do PowerPoint slides, how to go and talk to someone which is much more senior than you. All these things actually matters because when you come into an organization, if you don't have these basics, you will actually be behind those that actually have that basic, right? Yeah, it is important for you to gain that and so that your CV or your application does stand out. Whether it is a part-time job, I would say part-time jobs also is good to have. Some people prefer to do both. Some people say, okay, I want to do one internship stint at the same time. I want to gain some experience working part-time at a restaurant, for example, as simple as that, right? As just managing the cashier or taking orders from people who come in. People may think, hey, you know what, that's just like why do you want to do that job? That won't add any value to you. But honestly, I feel that whatever experience you have doing part-time, it does add value to who you are after you graduate because you still build skills, right? You still have to learn how to build the confidence to speak to people. You still have to learn how to manage the situations at the restaurant, for example. And this kind of experiences does matter. Maybe you don't see it, but you actually build those skills with you as you experience it. And actually, you will be able to apply some of those skills afterwards when you work in anywhere after you graduate.
Yes, I definitely resonate with that. And I feel that when it comes to internships, it is a practice. It is a place for you to practice and prepare yourself for the future, right? Would you say practice is very important in every skill set? I think, Aqil, you'll be able to share as well and how you've grown from being a student in college or in your university to going through your internship programs. Through these internship programs, you have built your speaking skills, your personal skills. Would you say that these internship programs gave you the platform to practice some of the skill sets that can be scary or fearful for some students, for example, like public speaking? Have your internship experiences helped you grow and prepared you to be able to come to today being a consultant as well as speaking to us?
Yep, absolutely. I think internship experience or even a part-time job, both of them actually will help you to improve your interpersonal skills, because at the end of the day, you pretty much have to do whatever that is required, right? Presentation, even the smallest brown bag presentation that you have to do with your team, explaining what you have done for the week. I think that's very important experience for me, because in Maybank we have like a weekly brown bag session where we talk about what we have done for the week, and explain about and give a story about the book that we have read. So even the smallest things actually helped you. And to be honest, wherever you go, don't, as long as you have a mindset that that you want to get something out of it, I think it's fine, and you will develop some sort of skills, and you just have to be persevere in actually whatever that you're currently doing, and one day it will just pop up, and you'll find the value at the end of it.
Yes, that is exactly what we want to be sharing with our audience today. Let's start a little bit more discussion on the application side and preparing for internships. So this is a question to both of you. In your opinion, what are the elements of a good internship, and what are the platforms available to search for an internship? So let's start with Shariza.
Sure. What are the platforms available? I think, of course, I think the young ones today, they're very active on LinkedIn, and I find that that's a great opportunity for you, place for you to actually connect with leaders from many organizations. There's Aqil mentioned it earlier. He approached someone on LinkedIn to apply for an internship, and honestly, I feel that this is a very important skill to have, as well as something courageous that you can do on your own when you're applying for an internship. I'll give you an example, right? In Nestle, we receive say thousands of applications of internships, and sometimes up to like 500 daily kind of thing. Our internship program is open the whole year, so we do have students coming in to asking to do a mandatory internship, as well as wanting to do it beyond than just their mandatory stint. So, and I'll be honest, we do have a selection process. We get them to complete an assessment. They go through the assessment process, and we would, of course, select the ones who are actually meeting some of the criteria that we want. There are also students who sometimes, let's say, we may have missed your application, right? Because of whatever reasons, because there's just too many, or because maybe at that point of time, we did not have that vacancy. So what I've seen students do, and I think it's important to share, quite valuable to share, is they approach me on LinkedIn, right? They have the courage to drop me an email to say, hey, Shariza, I'd like to get connected with you. I've actually applied for the Nestle internship program earlier, but I did not hear, back from you guys. Would you be able to share what's the progress of the application, for example? So for me, if you really want it, I think you need to take that step, right? Like Aqil mentioned, he might to take the next step to go and approach the person he wants to work with in LinkedIn. Go ahead and find them. Go ahead and drop them an email. I think it's important for you to make yourself stand out, because like I said, there are thousands of applicants out there who wants to join big companies like Nestle, for example, and then many others. So how do you make your application stand out is, of course, one of it is how do you present yourself to these companies, right? If you're able to share a little bit about your experience and why you're interested to join that company in a very short and concise message on LinkedIn, I think that also would grab the leader's attention to say, hey, look, check out this girl, right? Check out this guy. She's dropped me an email, and he seems to be very keen to join us. And looking at his profile, I think he or she might be suitable. What the line manager would do, or what the leader would do, is just share the CV across to HR, and there you go, right? You maybe have actually cut across a couple of lines in the process. So that actually happens, and I just want to openly share it with you, because personally I've gotten quite a number of this kind of emails. And then I have actually, shared them across with my teams, and eventually I've seen them as well come on board. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot. I think it just takes that extra step to do. And yeah, you never know. You might land to the company that you really are aiming for, right? Because you might be applying for like 10 companies at the same time, and no one is really responding to you right now. So you go ahead and take that approach, and who knows, you might be lucky.
Right, Aqil, I see you smiling a little bit there. Do you
Yeah.
want to share a little bit of your experience?
No, yeah, again, I resonate with whatever that Shariza has mentioned, and I was smiling just now because she was mentioning 10, and I remember in my first year I actually applied to more than 60, but yeah, that's a whole story.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, about the question about, I just want to add on the good internship, right? The element of a good internship, and I think Shariza has comprehensively mentioned about what do you have to do before. And I think you have to, again, as I mentioned before, you have to set a clear mindset on what you have to do during as well. Because I think that what shapes a good internship. And I think I want to break it up into two, because I think these two perspectives is actually will be very helpful. One is the people perspective, and second is the work perspective. On the people perspective, um, you have to make sure, I mean, you can't make sure, but a good internship is because you have a collaborative team, or an easy way is an awesome coworkers. I've experienced both, an awesome coworkers and not so awesome coworkers. And second is a good mentoring and advice from your mentors or from your seniors. That's from the people's perspective. And the second is the work perspective. What makes an internship a good internship is that it has a challenging but rewarding work, and you're given trust and responsibility to carry out your work. And I think, yes, this might sound daunting, but you have to actually create this opportunity and grab it. And because at the end of the day, internship is about creating the opportunity, and being able to create your own story on how you wanna create that value, because nobody else is gonna actually tell you like, hey, you have to do this and that. This is how you should actually, get value, because you're the only one who knows what you want to actually get from your experiences. So I think being surrounded by great people and doing impactful work will surely add into your credentials to improve your prospect of securing a graduate job. And to be honest, there are so many platforms out there. I've experienced some of them, career fair, company career website, third-party platform, and LinkedIn as well. But yeah, I would say that my most favorite one is LinkedIn, to be honest. But so just go ahead and try any of this. Yeah.
Yes, I think LinkedIn is a very popular selection right now, and quite a bit interns have been hired through LinkedIn. Shariza, share a little bit on the process of hiring interns through LinkedIn, because see, like you've mentioned earlier, candidates have gone onto LinkedIn to text you, send you a personal message through LinkedIn. I think you've also mentioned that the students have already applied for our internship programs, and then they go into a further step of contacting you and speaking to you. Share with us what is the benchmark? How much shall a student speak or contact you? Will it get to a point of it being too much, or is there a fine line to having to contact the hiring managers, for example?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, of course, the first step that what you should do is, find out first which companies are offering the internship opportunities today, right? So what you do is you go on JobStreet, you go on GradOne, you go on, all the different other platforms, on Seats, for example, and even on Wob and all that. You find out which are the companies who are hiring at this point of time, right? You go ahead and apply for it. Some companies may have certain assessments that you need to complete. For example, Nestle, there would be some personality assessments that these interns have, students have to complete as part of their internship application. And this is merely for us just to understand a bit more about the intern or the profile of the applicant before we actually make the selection, right? So once you've done that, and you're waiting for the news whether you're selected or not. And often in when it comes to big companies like Nestle, KPMG, Maybank, and so on, we receive a huge number of applicants coming to wanting to join us. And sometimes it's about how do you stand out in that application, right? And what you often need to do is also to include your resume, for example. So when you include your resume, you need to make sure that your resume is also presentable, it's concise. It's not 5 pages long. For example, you're a student, you at max, you probably have 3 pages of a resume to attach in your application. And then you go ahead and submit it. So as you're waiting, and sometimes, like Aqil mentioned, you need to apply to many companies before you get selected to one, and this is not to actually, you know, you have to have the perseverance to have to apply to as many as you need to, because it's true, companies have to decide which are the best candidates, and sometimes when you have a huge pool, you're not able to decide as easy, right? So taking the next step, like messaging the leaders on LinkedIn, is actually, one step ahead, because hey, you want your applications to stand out. You're taking that courageous step to actually go ahead and let someone know that, I'm really excited to join Nestle. We would really love the opportunity to be able to complete an internship here. And this is my CV and this is my application. Appreciate if you can look into it. That fine line, I think, messaging them once will not actually say, hey, this girl or this guy is bothering me. I think it shows that this person has the courage to take that extra step to speak to someone, and then see how the application goes, right? Because I can understand it's not so easy to get the best internship that you want, right? And for me, I think I go back to what Aqil mentioned as well. Sometimes you may get internships in smaller firms or smaller companies, and it's totally okay, because at the end of the day, it's about what you learn in that internship. And sometimes when you go into those internship stints, you yourself have to take that extra step to say, I want to do this, right? Hey, Mr. Line Manager, can you actually, give me some exposure in this area, in that area? Can you include me in your projects for me to get that experience, right? Because once you're in it, you need to take the extra step to build as many skills, as many experience as possible, so that internship stint becomes very valuable at the end of the day. Because if you're just coming in and doing very basic administrative work, that's not going to help you much. Yes, it will help you build those basic skills, and I'm not saying it's not important. I think it's very important for you to understand the basic skills of working. And we always say you have to start from ground zero. You can't really pick and choose everything that you would do while you're doing an intern. But you should also share or express your interest to your line manager or your colleagues, to tell them that, hey, I also want to learn this. Do you think that during my 3 months here, you could at least include me in a couple of discussions so that I get that exposure and so on? And believe me, your line managers, the leaders, will be very impressed that you have actually spoken up and asked for that experience, because it shows that you want to learn. And in today's world, it's all about having that that mindset of, I want to learn this, I'm curious, I want to find out more, and this would actually add value to the intern at the end of the day. And one more thing that I want to add is also about being brave to actually share your ideas, because honestly, sometimes being fresh, coming out from the outside, you guys may see things that we don't see, right? Some line managers who have been around for a long time, they might not see things that you see. So be brave and courageous enough to share those ideas with them. And you never know, they may actually take those ideas and actually do something about it. And then you guys say, hey, you know what, I was part of that idea or that rollout of that program, and yeah, it's something that you can also add into your experience at the end of the day.
Thank you, Shariza, for that. No,
Yeah.
not at all. I would like to
Alright.
actually pick Aqil's brain
Yeah.
on this. Aqil, share your thoughts on being brave and sharing ideas. Have you been put in a place or experienced a time where you had an idea that you really wanted to share and you did or did not? Share with us a little bit story there. You're muted, Aqil.
Sorry.
No
Yeah,
worries.
I think I can give a good experience in it and a better one as well. And what do I learn from that? I think back in my, in one of the internships, I found like the things that I did was a bit mundane, and there's a better way, and a bit boring as well. And I think there's a better way of doing it, a bit more efficient. So I suggested it to the line manager. And it was not well received. But to be honest, over time, people, I started to talk to my colleagues about the idea, etc. And people are getting being more accepting to the idea. And at the end of the day, when I actually went out, when I exited my internship, I realized that they actually adopted that. The second experience is, a good experience where this one is actually in Maybank, where I actually told them like, hey, you know what? I think that we're not, monitoring things in a proper manner. There's no standardized way to actually look at this. Why don't I actually help you guys to actually create a database to actually, record all the RPA implementations that you guys did in this bank. And I think that is well received. And even my HOD was actually, hey, you know what, this is a fantastic idea. Why don't you take a lead on this? So I feel like whatever you do, at the end of the day, if you have a good intention of making the company more efficient and bringing a value out of the whatever work that they're currently doing, they will eventually see the potential value in it. So don't worry too much on don't be afraid on giving out good ideas, because at the end of the day, if it's not well received, it's not well received. Buck up and come again later. But if it's well received, then it's good for you, it's good for the company, it's good for everyone.
Yes, definitely. I agree as well. I think having to come to a place where we need to be proactive and share and speak out on our thoughts and on our ideas, because like Aqil said, there are times where it will be accepted or it will not be accepted. And there will always be times like this. Some may like your ideas, some leaders may like your ideas, some leaders may not, or may look at it in a different perspective. But we keep trying, we keep pushing, and we keep coming back to a place where we find another idea, we share again. Now I'd like to touch a little bit on the topic with having to identify attractive interns. This is a question for Shariza. How do you benchmark, what is your benchmark for an attractive intern? And explain on how your process of selecting potential interns for that.
Okay. So how do I find an attractive intern? I think if when you are shortlisted for an interview for the internship position, I think it's important that you show that you are very eager to learn, right? For me, I would always select someone who is eager to learn, someone who has the initiative to take on new things. And how do I assess this during the interview is when I start asking them about what they've done before or during their studies, right? And when they share these experiences, whether it's through a group project that they were leading or to leading a society that they were part of, taking part in competitions and so on, this is where the employers like me will start to see what are some of the traits that you have, right, as a student. Did you have the initiative to do more? Did you show that you were courageous enough? Did you show that you were hungry to learn, right? And also at the same time, understand your own strength and areas of development. I think this is an important point to touch, because there's always this question where employers start to ask you, hey, what are the skills that you have today that you think will add value to this internship role? And what are some of the areas of development that you want to work on? And often we see graduates are not really able to answer the second question, right? They may find it, oh no, I don't want to reveal my areas of weakness because then I might not get selected. But in reality, it also shows it's a reflection of how well you know yourself, right? For me, I would want to work with candidates. I would want to hire with candidates who knows what are the areas of development and want to work on it, rather than only say good things about themselves and not really able to reflect on what else can they improve on to be a better individual and even prepare themselves for the future. So you have to do a bit of preparation, I would say, before you attend these calls or these interviews. Take time to really think about, how would I share my experiences today in this very limited capacity that I have to this employer who would want to hire me, right? And you start to think about what are the things that you have done in university that could actually be something that you can share with that employer, right? Like I said, it could be things like even leading projects at university, working, being part of a case study competition, taking leads in society clubs and so on. All these experiences matter because that will create that conversation that we want during that interview. If you come in unprepared and you have not really thought through about what you want to share, I think then it does, put you a little bit on the back seat versus someone who has done preparation for, to attend that interview. So yeah, there's yeah, and you have, for me, it's always about selecting a candidate who has positive attitude, who really, is eager to learn. And, honestly, we're not, when we hire interns, we're not expecting someone who has experiences already. Of course, it would be great to hire someone like an Aqil who has already had previous internship experiences. But if I am hiring a student which is, totally fresh, and this would be the first internship stint, how I would find out whether he or she is the right fit would be to just go ahead and ask this person about what they have done in university, so that I could say, okay, you know what, from her or his sharings, I can see that this person has the right attitude. Because at the end of the day, when we hire interns, it's always about their having the right attitude, having the right mindset, right? For them to be part of our organization, even though it's a short stint. But we do want to hire the best of the best students to come in, give them that exposure, and who knows, right? You do well in your internship, you might even be considered to a permanent role afterwards. And that's what I often say to my interns who join us, make sure you do well in your internship stints, because this is where the company, the leaders will actually see how you perform. And when they have a vacancy in the future, they will think of you first rather than start looking out, right? So take that opportunity, do it well, because you never know, you might be lucky to get a job later after that.
Yes, I think, Aqil, share a little bit on how you feel about having to go through the internship experiences, and then were you called to a job opportunity after either one of your internships, for example?
Yeah. So my experience with my internship is quite positive, I would say. Well, there's hiccups here and there, but I think at the end of the day, I think I did pretty well in most of my internships. And obviously, because you maintain close relationship with your, the line manager, with your colleagues. I got called to some of these, places of the companies that I worked for. But unfortunately, I actually went for another company. But I think all in all, I think it's a very, I think you have to focus on, as what Shariza has mentioned, you have to focus on doing the right thing in your internship. Sorry, not just the right thing, doing the right thing. But don't worry if you did the wrong thing, as long as you know how to make it right. Yep, that's the right word to say it. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to scare people into, you have to be perfect before you can actually go into the internship. And if you mess things up, then there's no way for me to actually get a proper job with this company at all. So don't worry too much on that. As long as you do your job, you're sincere in everything, in all your relationships, and you take responsibility and accountability in any of your work. I think at the end of the day, you will be able to actually, they will see you as a promising candidate when you graduate. And as what Shariza has mentioned, it's right. Making an impact is very, very important, because once they actually have an opening, they will actually want to call you up, because they have, because they're comfortable working with you already. So it's why would they, I wouldn't say why would they actually open up to the public, but I think there's a better chance for you to, yeah.
Yes, it is actually very true. It's setting yourself out, right? Having to show them your abilities, and like Aqil had mentioned, it's about persevering through your experiences, through your mistakes, because we are human at the end of the day, and we are learning. Internships are meant is a platform for you to learn and for you to practice as it prepares you for the future. Now, we have a couple of minutes before we open the floor for Q&A, but I would like to touch a little bit on internships during pandemic. Shariza, Are companies still hiring during this pandemic, interns during the pandemic, and how to prepare for virtual internships, and how is it different from in-office internships?
Nice question, Aurelia. So I think whether companies are hiring, I believe they are, especially for internship opportunities. I think, why not for many of the companies out there, and even for Nestle, for us, it's always about, how do we help prepare graduates for the future workforce, right? It's always about, for us at Nestle here, it's about touching as many youth as possible so that we can help upskill them for the future, whether they end up being in Nestle or not, but at least, they are well prepared to enter the workforce later on. In Nestle, last year, we noted that it was really difficult for us to hire interns because we were not in the office, right? The head office basically was closed. We were all working from home. Of course, we had the manufacturing side, which is the factories, which were open, and we had to continue to produce food and beverages. So we had a combination of virtual internships versus, and as well as physical interns who actually come into the office. So in Nestle, what happened was at the zone level, we saw that there was a common need across all the different Nestle markets where virtual internships would actually make a huge impact to the youth today, because they felt that they were losing out, right? Companies were closed, they were not able to be at offices. So how do they actually complete their internship stints while working from home or studying from home? So what we came up with was actually a virtual internship program where we were open to, hire interns coming from, anywhere in Malaysia. They don't have to physically be in Klang Valley where Nestle's offices are, but they can complete their internships remotely from wherever that they are, right? We even had students who were still in the UK. They couldn't come back because of the pandemic. They were stuck there. So they said, I would still want to complete an internship with Nestle. Can I go ahead and apply? So we came up with this program. It was a virtual internship program. It's still going on today. And honestly, I think we have found, I would say that this program is already a part of us. It's a wonderful one because it doesn't put you to a limit just because you're not in Klang Valley, you're not able to do the internship with us, and you can do it anywhere. And how is it different? I would say not so different, because at the end of the day, when we hire interns, we have something specific or something particular that we want them to help with. For example, in my team, I always have a couple of interns in my team that help me with employer branding initiatives. Like for recently, we had the International Youth Day celebration, and we had actually 3 interns who were working on it very closely in terms of helping us set up the whole actual event day, from planning up to actually rolling out the actual event. So we provided that opportunity, and these interns had the opportunity to actually even present to the CEO on their idea, and the idea was what the idea was accepted, and they actually had the chance to roll out that idea. So I thought it was a very nice opportunity to actually share with you. At the same time, I think we also do hire interns, or what we call them nestons in Nestle, which help out on like just day-to-day activities. Like we had requests from the marketing team to say, hey, I'm launching this campaign, this e-commerce campaign. I need a few good interns to come in and help me run some activities, leading up to that event. And we were able to hire these interns virtually. And believe it or not, I think the pandemic has sort of pushed us in that direction where you have to find a way to be able to work from home. And I think all of us are experts at that now. We're able to stay connected no matter where we are. We're still able to work as normal as possible. With all this tools that we have today, I think it does not limit us from actually working in a normal way, right? Of course, it's not the same. You're not able to see your colleagues face to face or even be in the office setup. But I think it does still provide you that experience that you need as an intern or as a student.
All right. Just I see Evelyn looking over at me as well. On like it's
Time is
questions
up.
time.
Yeah.
But just really quick before, as we wrap it up, Aqil, share a little bit on how you feel, your take on working remotely, and how it could possibly, do you feel, is it a good or a bad experience? Does it affect productivity and efficiency? How do you think that this would help students, or does it help students during the pandemic having to work as an intern virtually?
Sure. I think I just like briefly explain what's the good and the bad, right? I think the good thing about working remotely is obviously you can work in your pajamas. I'm wearing very professionally up here, but I'm wearing my pajamas down there. It's much more comfier than a suit and tie, but I can't lie that sometimes it's nice to go to office wearing a suit and tie. But that's the good thing. You're comfortable in your own room or your study space. Number two is actually you can space out your work throughout the day to find the best and optimal time and method for you to actually complete your work. I think this is very important because sometimes when you're given a task and for 2 days, you can complete it at any time that you want. And you can, when you want to snack, you know when you want to go to the toilet, when you're gonna actually, focus on reading some materials. I think that's the best thing about it, because in the office, there's some restrictions. And I think number three is obviously save on parking, cost, fuel, and food. I think cost is a major driver for me why I actually like working at home. But I think there's also a bad thing, the downside of actually working remotely. And I think it applies to both professionals and internship as well. There's no clear boundaries on on where should you actually do things. So it kind of disrupt maybe at the start on your work-life balance, because people thought you're slacking off because they can't see you, right? So they're like, okay, you know what, let's do a call at 8 p.m. Yesterday night I had a call at 11 p.m., etc. So you really have to set the boundaries and manage expectations. And especially when you work in a global firm, this thing will actually come quite often. So you really have to manage expectation with your line manager, and especially as an intern, don't go crazy. Just set your expectations. This is my boundaries. And number two is lack of personal touch and interaction with colleagues as well. I really felt this because I rarely go to office. I wanted to actually have good connection with my colleagues, but I can't. As for interns as well, you want to, get good mentorship from your mentors and seniors, but you can't. But the way that you can actually overcome this is try to be present in all of the meetings, and even the smallest meetings. Just have fun, be casual, but do know to be professional in client meetings, etc. And regularly check in with your colleagues, or your co-workers, your managers, because I think that will help you to actually make them notice you. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Aqil. I will bring in Evelyn now. I see her smiling there. The question is ending. All right, Evelyn, go ahead.
So I would first want to thank Ms. Orealia for moderating and also sharing some experience with us. And it is an honor to be having both speakers sharing their experience too. So I'll take it from here. So after this knowledgeable sharing, I believe our participants have some questions to ask. So now it is Q&A session. I will be reading out questions on slides from registration and the Q&A section. So the first question on our slide is, should I intern at a small company that fits my curiosity, or a credible company that does not fit my aspirations?
Let's go with Shariza. Shariza, would like to answer that?
Yeah, for me, I think, you need to make that choice. I feel that if you're very curious about a certain area, like I said earlier, if you want to really try out something different, go ahead. And if you only get that opportunity in a small company, I don't see anything wrong. I think you should go for it, because at the end of the day, this internship exposure is supposed to give you that experience, right? That exposure that you want before deciding where you want to head in your career path afterwards. Don't choose an internship where it does not fit your aspirations, because unless you need to do it to graduate, because I know some students have to do a specific internship in an area that they're studying in order to graduate, and that is, of course, you need to graduate first. But if it does not fit into your aspirations, it's not something that you want to do, I think, don't do it, because you end up dragging your feet to wake up every morning and be part of that day to day. So yeah, pick something that you will actually enjoy doing.
Yes, Aqil, do you like to have, would you like to add on to that?
No, I think I resonate with Shariza. I think go for whatever that you think will bring value to your life, small or a big company. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, it's how you actually narrate your story to your next employer. If you feel like you can actually tell a good story with your small company, go ahead. If you think that a big company that better suits you, then go for it. It's how you narrate your story.
Yes. I would entirely agree with Shariza and Aqil as well. It is ourselves, it is us who creates our journey. We create our future and we create the experiences that we're going to have. And having to choose between a small company and a credible corporation, it's honestly where you want to learn. It's how you want to grow as an individual. If a small company resonates with you, it feeds your curiosity and your instincts are telling you this is a experience that you want to go into. Take the experience, because there are still going to be other experiences. After the small company, you may find that you want to then go into a credible company or a large corporation, and it could also be growing into that experience as well. So either way, trust yourself and trust your growth and where you want to grow into.
Okay, thank you for answering the question. So the next question, someone from our Zoom participants would like to ask Mr. Aqil. So how do you write in a resume or CV to convince the company you want to intern with that is not conjunction with your field of study?
Okay, that's a very specific question. So the way that I write my cover letter or a CV is obviously it's not about the field of study is one thing, right? But how do you actually curate your CV or cover letter to fit into the company that you want to go for that is different from what you're currently doing? So you have to look at it a bit micro than that. So you have to look at what skills that you want to actually develop there and what skills you currently have. And to be honest, as an engineer, I can tell you that there's a lot of skills that is applicable, that is transferable to other kind of career out there. For example, when you go to a consulting company, or even if you go to investment banking, they need you to do research, quantitative research, right? And as an engineer, you pretty much do that as well. But yeah, you research on different things. You research on, for civil engineer, you might do research and calculate on the beam, on how to actually build structures. But in consulting company or investment banking, you have to do research on numbers, on how to actually, due diligence to buy a firm or etc. Right? So it's actually how you actually curate that from what skills that you're currently doing and how can actually be applied to actually to the company that you're looking for. Research is one. You can talk about your communication skills as well. If you've been in a student organizations, if you have presented multiple times in your course, for example, you're a mass comm or you do economics, for example, you want to go into like a marketing, tell them about how you actually convince your lecturer or convince whoever in your your academic course, how you actually communicate, you present your ideas, even your thesis, for example, how you actually successfully done it. Then actually explain that in your CV and cover letter, curate your CV to and cover letter to show that, okay, I know this is what you're looking for based on your job requirement. You want this, and that. Here I have it, though it's not exactly as it is, but I can assure you that this is actually transferable and I can actually prove it to you.
So to answer the question is to do our research first and also show some of our advantages in a resume or CV. So the next question is on our slides. So the question would be, how early should students apply for their internship placements?
Okay, I'll take this one. I think as early as possible, because I think the moment that you know when your internship placement should be, I think you should go ahead and apply for the placements. It's not like I think we said it earlier. It's not so easy maybe to get the internship placement that you want. So you might need to apply to a couple of companies before you actually land into a particular internship placement. So, of course, it's different for everyone, based on application process. But I think, yeah, you should start as early as possible.
Yep, I agree as well.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, just to add, there are certain companies that has a strict window. So make sure that you know your industry. And especially for like consulting in the top tier consulting firm like MBB, McKinsey, Bain, or BCG, they have a strict window. So do have a chat about the people. Do your research early, I would say. Yeah, as well.
Yeah, find out when that window is so that you be prepared to apply for it when the time comes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all for our questions on slides. So now I'll pick some from our floors. So Shahira here asks how to confront the supervisor that does not want to expose the intern a better exposure and keep asking the intern to do the admin task while the intern is from a construction background.
Okay. So I think, of course, when you're brought in as an intern, the line manager may have certain tasks or certain things that they want you to complete. And I think it's important for you to do that because that's the basic things that you should do. What you want to do beyond that, I think you should continue to ask your line manager if he or she does say that, look, I don't have anything for you. And that sometimes can happen, right? Try to look for different opportunities, right? Try to go and ask another colleague, for example, hey, do you need any help? Can I, get exposed in this area? Like I think what we mentioned earlier as well, start making that connection because when you join a company, it's not only about you and the line manager, but it's also about you and your colleagues and who else you can relate to. So, it's important to start building conversations, have chats with different people, so that they would also be able to help you out in terms of what sort of exposure you want during your stint. But I do agree sometimes you're not always lucky to get something that is really beneficial. But you should be courageous enough to voice it out. If it's not accepted, I think find other ways. Look at try to speak to other colleagues.
So the best is to do ourselves and be prepared for what is ahead for us. There's a question from our Zoom participant, Shakira Yusuf. So he would like to ask, are internships good option for all graduates or of any level, SPM, diplomas, bachelor's, master's, PhD, and etc. So for example, one graduated with a PhD, would there be a different strategy approaching an internship application, or should the PhD graduate apply for a permanent or contract position instead?
I think it's above my pay grade to answer that.
I think this is Shariza question.
Yeah, above my pay grade.
Yeah. I think, whether you're a degree student, a diploma student, of course, certain companies have certain requirements, right? For example, let's say the management, the internship program in Nestle, we want minimum bachelor degree students to apply to us. If you have a master's or if you have a PhD, if you're at this point of time still looking for jobs, and let's say you have not landed to a permanent job, I think it's no harm to actually go ahead and apply to an internship role, because at the end of the day, you just want to have that experience. And in today's pandemic and all that, there might be limited roles out there which you can apply to at this point of time. So I would say there's no harm for you to go ahead and apply for an internship if you're a master's or PhD student, if you're okay with it, right? Because of course I know sometimes students be like, I'm a PhD holder, why should I do an internship? I want to go ahead and straight away apply for a permanent role. Honestly, it does not hurt to do an internship if you're here just to look for experience. But of course, you have to find a company that is open to take you, right? Because sometimes companies may also get a bit scared, like, oh my God, this person is a PhD holder. What am I going to give her or him, right? So find the right opportunity as well. Find the right company that you think you can add value to, and then go ahead and apply for it if the option of a permanent role is not there.
Okay, so I think there's a question for Mr. Aqil. So someone would like to ask from our Zoom participants, how willing are companies willing to hire a fresh graduate who is trying to pivot away from their graduate courses? And do you agree that joining multiple internships should be done before graduating? And would joining multiple internships after graduation be considered a waste of time?
I don't think it's a waste of time, to be honest. Whatever that you do is actually an experience. That's one thing that I want to put it there. But obviously work smart and know your strategy, right? Know your value, know what you want to get out from your internship experiences. Don't just do internship just for the sake of doing internship. I think that's a waste of time. If you want to talk about, is it all right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the question is, would it be all right if this person do an internship right after graduate because they wanted to pivot, right? I think that's totally all right. And how willing company to accept it? I mean, I have experience. Actually, they are quite accepting. I'm not sure about the industry because I applied for a private equity firm because I wanted to try. This is just an internship position, and I told them that I'm civil engineering. I have a civil engineering degree. I never did work in PE firm before, and they are pretty all right to actually accept. Obviously, given that the experiences help. But there are companies out there that are willing to accept, to be honest. And again, on the multiple experiences, on the multiple internships, I don't think it is a waste of time as long as you know how to actually, what the value they want to get out from each of the internships. That's my short answer to that.
Okay, thank you. I think I can also ask questions for to Miss Orealia. So there's a question from my side because I'm also looking for internships. So I would like to ask is, students might be having some expectations before going into internship. So I would like to ask what an internship is and is not.
So first and foremost, there are so many different types of internships. There are types of each organization, and like we've discussed earlier, like our line managers, for example, we create different types of internships depending on actually what the organization needs. For example, in TalentCorp, what I can share, we have a structured internship program. So a SIP program, for example, it was designed so that we can create a structured internship for students. So for example, like I mentioned, there's so many different types of internship, and sometimes we don't know what we're going to be experiencing. We're not necessarily sure when we get accepted for an intern, or we get an internship, or we get accepted for an internship job. Only when we start working, only when we start in the organization is where we discover what our experience is going to be, what our line managers are going to be showing us. Okay, this is your job for the next 1 week. This is what will be your task for the next 1 month or 2 months. What we've done within TalentCorp, for example, when we created a structured internship program, it is actually to help students identify and know beforehand where their path is going to be. So again, there are so many different companies that have different types of experiences. For our structured internship program, for example, it is designed for people who knows what they want to learn, where they want to learn, where are the gaps they would like to close. And it's also depending on whether the companies are available for this kind of internships. I would say it really depends on our luck in a little bit on whether there is an available role, whether the company is hiring, whether you stand out through the line managers or the hiring managers. There are so many different types of reasonings on whether you get a job or not. But like what we've discussed earlier, again, every other internship are different experiences. You may not go through a structured internship program, but you may learn a whole different type of skill set through a different type of internship. For example, how to negotiate, how to speak out, how to have courage to share your ideas and thoughts, because coming from a college student and going into a professional company, it's not necessarily something that I'm ready to take on my internship. No, you're going in and you're obviously in a place where you're respectful of your managers, you're respectful of the professionals that are guiding you and teaching you. And then you're in the place where suddenly, like we spoke about earlier, you're not much in a conducive environment where you're actually learning. But that's not true. You're always learning. You're always learning something in every single internship, whether it's your interpersonal skills, whether it's your ability to speak out, because not all of us have the skills to have public speaking skills, to have the ability to share our thoughts. So in whatever internship you get, or whichever experience you have, you will be learning something. You'll be learning something that is actually meant for you to learn. So like Aqil, he went through 5 different internships. Every single internship, I believe he has learned something. And one internship he may have learned on how to be a better speaker. Another internship he could have learned on how to be a better analytics reader, or someone who's able to understand data and how to analyze data. So trust that there are so many things for us to learn. There is a broad knowledge that that is open in the world, right? There's so many different kind of experiences. There's so many different kinds of jobs and professional fields that we want to go into, and every single one of them are actually interconnected. They share similar skill sets in a way, especially our personal skills. So trust that regardless whether it's good or bad, internships that you're not too sure or you're a bit worried about, take the leap of faith and know that you're actually going to be learning something through these internships.
So yeah, I think that we as students have to have a good attitude and be confident while finding internship, and also be willing to learn from the company's culture too.
Yes.
So here's a question for Shariza. As you said, the recruiter do look the requirement for selecting intern, and there will be an assessment to secure the intern. So the question is, will it have a lower chances for a student that is away from their own field be selected for interns compared to students that have the same field for the intern or meet requirements of the intern?
I think it goes back to the requirement from the business as well. I think when we have line managers requesting for interns to be with their team on a specific project or on anything at all, they usually would tell us, right, I am open to consider students of various fields. I am open to consider only students with engineering background, for example. So this is where then the recruiter makes that decision to go in, make that step to go in and select the students based on the requirements of the line manager. But I can openly tell you that in Nestle, most situations, we are actually open to hire interns from different backgrounds. They don't need to come from a specific field to complete their internship. Unless it's, like I said, a very specific project that they want someone with that technical or functional skills, basic understanding of a particular area, then they would go ahead and ask for it. If you like we said earlier, if you feel that you want to try out something different beyond than what you have studied, I think internship is a great opportunity for you to give it a go and find which companies are actually open to take you on, right? Because not all companies, I would say, are open to take students from different backgrounds. So this is where you have to do a bit of your research, do a bit of your trial and error, right? Again, you have to apply for many companies in order for you to land for placement. And then hopefully you'll get the experience that you want.
Okay. So the last question to wrap up is for Mr. Aqil. So Mohana here wants to ask, what will make the employer decide not to let the interns continue working there after their internship ends? And she would like to have some tips on what an intern should avoid during their internship.
I think, to be honest, you have to try really hard to mess up your internship. Generally, I think as long as you have a good attitude, as long as you be approachable, as long as you have the right mindset to actually, contribute to the company, you won't mess your internship up. And as I mentioned before, you have to try really hard. But if there's one thing that you should avoid is obviously, your professional ethic. If people say like, don't be, they have a meeting with the client, especially, with external people, always come on time, always make sure that, you do whatever the basic tasks that they have actually asked you to do, maintain professional relationship with your colleague and also, and the clients, and also the casual relationship. The things that you should avoid, all the bad things, all the bad traits that you should avoid. there's no hard and fast rule, to be honest. Yeah, as long as you have a good attitude for me, because I think no company actually expect you to be an expert in the work that you are hiring. Yeah, they don't expect you to become an investment banker or whatever. So yeah, don't worry too much.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think this is the end for our Q&A session. And thank you, Ms. Shariza and Mr. Aqil for this insightful session. And thank you again to Orealia for moderating.
Thank
So
you.
there's a lot of uncertainties in the competitive employment market, especially during COVID. So by finding an internship while studying, students can learn practical skills they need in order to accumulate essential work experience. So learning the process of the internship applications gives us insight on how to get ready for applying internship. So I myself is finding internship too. So the key takeaway for me is to explore myself during this process and try to find out what suits me. I believe learning tips that have been shared today can help in establishing remarkable performance and seize opportunities that are and will be available for internships. So initiatives such as My ASEAN Internship from TalentCorp might be what high-achieving Malaysian students are looking for. So feel free to check it out on TalentCorp website. So up next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
It's been a
everyone.
great pleasure. Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So up
Bye.
next, Zoom participants that are still here with us, are you interested in learning new skills through online courses but don't know where to start? Find out how in our next session by Mr. Shavin Kandya from Open Learning at 1 p.m. Feel free to tune in despite not having pre-registered. Reminder to do so 10 minutes prior so that we can start the session on time. In the meantime, have a good lunch break and see you then.